The massive chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 30 advanced civilizations gathered for an emergency session. The central hologram displayed a terrifying sight, a growing gravitational anomaly that threatened to tear apart multiple star systems. Its purple-black mass swirled menacingly, already larger than most solar systems. Ambassador James Reed sat quietly in humanity's modest seat, far from the grand central podiums reserved for the founding species. Even after 15 years of membership in the Galactic Council, humans remained at the edges of galactic society. He watched as the council leader, tall and imposing with crystalline skin, called the session to order. "We face a crisis unprecedented in the last 1,000 years." The leader's voice boomed through the chamber. "The anomaly grows exponentially. Initial calculations suggest it will consume the Proxima sector within 30 days. 6 inhabited worlds lie in its path." Murmurs filled the chamber as the projection shifted to show the populated systems. Billions of lives were at stake. Reed noticed how the other representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats, a remarkably human-like gesture for beings so different from Earth's people. "The Council requires immediate action," the leader continued. "We seek volunteers to lead an intervention force. The risk is extreme, but the alternative is unthinkable." Silence fell over the chamber. Representatives looked at their data screens, at the floor, at each other. Anywhere but at the leader. Reed felt his heart pound as he stood up. He knew what would come next, but humanity had to try. "Earth volunteers," he said firmly, his voice carrying through the sudden quiet. "We have experience with similar gravitational events, though on a smaller scale. Our scientists believe." Laughter interrupted him. It started from the section where the militant species sat, those proud of their warrior heritage. Others joined in, until nearly half the chamber openly mocked the human ambassador. "The cowards volunteer," sneered a representative covered in iridescent scales. "The same humans who require triple redundancy on every system, who demand safety protocols that take longer than the missions themselves. Your species still uses primitive escape pods." Another voice called out, "You plan for failure before you even begin." Reed stood his ground, though his face flushed red. "Yes, we plan for failure. We plan for every contingency because space is dangerous. Our methods." "Your methods are those of frightened children." The scaled representative rose, towering over his peers. "You would waste precious time running simulations while worlds die. We need warriors, not cautious technicians." The council leader raised a hand for silence. "Ambassador Reed, while we appreciate Earth's eagerness, perhaps this crisis requires a more proven approach. Do any of the senior species volunteer their forces?" Again, silence fell. Reed looked around the chamber, noting how the very representatives who had mocked humanity now found their data screens fascinating. The warrior races, for all their pride, offered no solutions. "Honored leader," Reed spoke again, his voice steady. "Earth doesn't volunteer because we are brave. We volunteer because we are careful, because we plan, because we test, because we account for failure before it costs lives. You call these qualities cowardice. We call them wisdom." "Pretty words," the scaled representative scoffed. "But the human way would take too long. The anomaly won't wait for your endless safety checks." "And yet," Reed replied quietly, "I don't see anyone else volunteering." The council leader's crystalline face showed no emotion, but their voice carried a note of resignation. "Unless there are other volunteers, this session is adjourned. We will reconvene tomorrow to consider alternative approaches." As the representatives filed out, Reed noticed how they avoided looking at the hologram of the growing anomaly. He activated his communicator, sending a simple message to Earth Command: "Proceed as planned." Because what the Council didn't know, what humanity had carefully kept quiet, was that Earth's ships were already preparing. While the great species of the galaxy debated, human crews ran their final safety checks. While warriors mocked human caution, Earth's most advanced vessels were being loaded with equipment tested through thousands of simulations. The cowards of Earth were about to show the galaxy a different kind of courage. Commander Kate Barnes stood in Earth's launch control, watching as hundreds of technicians performed their final checks. The massive underground facility hummed with focused energy as humanity's most advanced ships prepared for launch. On the main screen, a countdown timer showed 3 hours until departure. Final simulation results are in, reported engineer Tom Miller, his tablet displaying complex graphs. All 20,000 scenarios processed. Success rate is now at 78%. Not good enough, Kate replied, her expression firm. Run it again. I want at least 85% before we launch. One of the alien observers, permitted to watch the preparation as a diplomatic courtesy, made a sound of disgust. More simulations, while real worlds faced destruction. Kate ignored the comment, focusing instead on the holographic display showing their 5 ships. The vessels looked plain compared to the elegant ships of other species, blocky, overbuilt, with layers of redundant systems clearly visible in their design. They weren't pretty, but they were tough. Status report on the backup systems, she asked. Triple redundancy on all critical systems, Tom answered. Backup power at 100%. Emergency protocols tested and verified. Safety pods charged and ready. The alien observer stepped forward. Commander Barnes, my species has fought in 100 space battles. Never have we seen such hesitation before a mission. The council was right about humans. Kate finally turned to face the observer. Tell me, she said quietly, in those 100 battles, what was your survival rate? The alien's upper appendages twitched. We lost many warriors. They died with honor. We plan to die of old age, Kate replied. Our hesitation, as you call it, is why we have the highest survival rate in deep space operations. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to check the radiation shielding. Again. The next 3 hours passed in a blur of activity. Every system was checked, then checked again. Every crew member reviewed their emergency procedures. Every possible point of failure was identified and accounted for. Finally, Kate stood before the assembled crews, 50 of Earth's best, all volunteers. They wore simple gray flight suits, each with a patch showing Earth's flag alongside the mission symbol, a shield protecting a star. You all know the mission, she began. 6 worlds face destruction. The galaxy's greatest warriors won't help. The most advanced species are afraid to try. They call us cowards because we take precautions, because we plan, because we refuse to throw lives away. She paused, looking at each crew member. But here's what they don't understand. Every safety check we run, that's courage. Every backup system we install, that's bravery. Every simulation we process, that's what gives us the confidence to do what they won't. Tom stepped forward with an update. Final simulation complete. Success rate at 87%. Kate nodded. That's what I wanted to hear. Any questions before we board? A young pilot raised her hand. Commander, what if we fail? Then we'll fail knowing we did everything possible to succeed, Kate answered. And we'll have our backup plans, our safety systems, and our escape pods to bring us home. Let them call that cowardice. We call it living to try again. The crews moved to their ships with practiced efficiency. Kate watched from the command vessel's bridge as all systems came online. 5 ships, each one triple-checked, each one as ready as human ingenuity could make it. Launch control, this is Commander Barnes. All ships report ready. Request permission to depart. Permission granted, came the response. Good hunting, Commander. Show them what human courage looks like. The massive doors above the facility opened to the night sky. 5 ships rose on columns of blue fire, carrying humanity's cowardly hope into space. In the Galactic Council chamber, debates would continue. But out here, in the dark between stars, humanity was done talking. It was time to prove that caution and courage could be the same thing. The 5 human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the affected systems. Through the main viewport of the command ship, the gravitational anomaly looked even more terrifying than in the Council's hologram. Its dark mass twisted space itself, sending waves of distortion across the stars. "Status report," Commander Barnes ordered, her eyes fixed on the threatening void ahead. "All ships reporting green," Tom replied from his engineering station. "Shield systems holding steady. Sensors are gathering data on the anomaly structure." Kate nodded. "Begin Phase 1. Deploy the probe network." Each ship released a dozen small probes, their formation carefully planned through countless simulations. The tiny machines spread out in a precise pattern, their sensors gathering data about the anomaly's behavior. "Incoming transmission," the communications officer announced. 3 alien vessels approaching. They're new ships. They've come to watch us fail." Kate allowed herself a small smile. "Let them watch. Tom, how's the data looking?" Tom's fingers flew across his console as information poured in from the probe network. "The anomaly structure is similar to our simulations, but there's something different. The energy pattern. Wait." He straightened suddenly. "Commander, I think I see a way." He brought up a complex diagram on the main screen. "Look at these resonance patterns. The anomaly isn't just destroying space. It's creating a specific frequency of gravitational waves. If we could generate an opposing frequency." "Like noise-canceling headphones," Kate said, "but for gravity itself." "Exactly." Tom's excitement was visible. "We can use the antimatter in our backup power systems. Controlled bursts, precisely timed, could disrupt the anomaly structure." One of the alien news ships sent a message. "Human vessels, our sensors detect you preparing to use antimatter. Surely even your species isn't cautious enough to bring antimatter to a gravitational disaster." Kate opened a channel. "We brought antimatter precisely because we're cautious. We brought everything we might need, including things we hoped not to use." She closed the channel and turned to Tom. "Run a simulation." "Already on it," he replied. "Setting up a small-scale test first. Safety protocols suggest we start with a test." The alien message cut in again. "Worlds are dying while you play with small experiments." Kate opened the channel one last time. "Would you rather we risk making things worse? Now, if you'll excuse us, we have work to do." The next 6 hours were intense but methodical. The human ships tested their solution on progressively larger scales, carefully measuring each result. The alien news ships broadcast everything, and soon other vessels began arriving to watch. Finally, Tom looked up from his station. "Commander, I think we're ready for full deployment." The simulations show an 89% chance of success. Kate surveyed her crew, seeing determination in every face. "Begin final preparations. All ships, move to your designated positions." The 5 human vessels spread out around the edge of the anomaly, each one precisely placed according to their tested plan. The watching alien ships had grown to quite a crowd, broadcasting every moment to the galaxy. "All ships report ready," Tom announced. "Antimatter systems primed. Timing synchronized." Kate took a deep breath. This was the moment that would prove humanity's approach, careful, methodical, and thoroughly planned, was the right one. "Begin the sequence," she ordered. "And remember your safety protocols. We're not here to be heroes. We're here to solve a problem and go home alive." The first antimatter burst flashed bright against the darkness of space. Then another and another, each one precisely timed and positioned. The anomaly's swirling mass began to shudder. From the watching alien ships came a collective gasp. Their sensors showed what the humans already knew from their simulations. The careful, tested plan was working. The cowards who insisted on testing everything, who demanded backup systems and safety protocols, who refused to rush in blindly. They were the ones about to save billions of lives. and they would do it without losing a single crew member. The initial success against the anomaly didn't last long. Just as their simulations had predicted, the gravitational monster began to adapt, sending out new waves of destructive force. First wave approaching, Tom announced from his station. Impact in 30 seconds. Commander Barnes watched the massive distortion wave roll toward them. All ships, activate shield configuration alpha. Remember your training. We prepared for this. The wave hit like a hammer against metal. The command ship groaned under the strain, but the specially designed shields held firm. Years of obsessive safety engineering were paying off. Damage report, Kate called out. Minor stress on outer hull, came the response. All systems functioning within normal parameters. The backup shields didn't even activate. A message flashed across their screens from one of the alien news ships. Impressive shield technology. Perhaps there is something to be said for human thoroughness. Kate allowed herself a small smile before focusing on the task at hand. Begin Phase 2. All ships, move to Formation Beta. Tom, start the focused antimatter bursts. The 5 human ships moved with careful precision, their formation creating a perfect pentagon around the anomaly's edge. Each vessel began firing controlled bursts of antimatter, their timing coordinated down to the millisecond. Then something went wrong. Commander, Tom's voice was urgent. The anomaly's frequency is shifting faster than our simulations predicted. It's trying to match our disruption pattern. The alien observers began pulling their ships back, clearly expecting the humans to retreat as well. Instead, Kate leaned forward in her chair. Execute Safety Protocol 47B, she ordered calmly. This was why they ran so many simulations. This was why they had backup plans for their backup plans. The human ships smoothly transitioned to a new formation, one they had practiced countless times. Their antimatter bursts shifted to a different pattern, perfectly coordinated through their linked systems. It's working, Tom reported. The anomaly's adaptation rate is slowing. We're regaining control. A new message came in, this time from one of the threatened worlds. Human vessels, our sensors detect the anomaly's effects decreasing. Please, what can we do to help? Kate opened a channel. Evacuate your population to the designated safe zones we marked in your system. Our simulations show those areas will remain stable. You already planned safe zones for us. Of course we did, Kate replied. It was part of our preliminary safety assessment. She closed the channel and turned to her crew. Let's show them what else we planned for. The next hours were intense but controlled. Every time the anomaly tried to adapt, the human ships had a counter-strategy ready. When one approach didn't work, they smoothly transitioned to another, each move rehearsed through thousands of simulations. The watching alien vessels grew in number. News spread quickly through the galaxy. The humans, those supposedly cowardly humans, were actually succeeding where the mighty warrior races had feared to try. 4th wave approaching, Tom announced. This is the big one. Kate nodded. All ships, implement Protocol 72C. Full power to forward shields. Backup systems standing by. The wave hit with tremendous force. Warning lights flashed across every console. The ship's hulls creaked under pressure that would have torn apart most vessels. But the human ships held. Their overbuilt frames, their redundant systems, their carefully designed shields, all the things other species had mocked as unnecessary, kept them intact. Status report, Kate called out. All ships reporting in, came the response. Some damage to outer systems, but nothing got through our primary defenses. The backup systems are ready if needed. The alien news ships were broadcasting everything. Across the galaxy, billions watched as the cowardly humans faced down one of the greatest threats in recent history, and did it without a single casualty. Because, as it turned out, real courage wasn't about rushing in blindly. Real courage was being prepared for anything, no matter how many others mocked your caution. And humanity was about to prove that point once and for all. What had started as a success was quickly turning into a nightmare. Warning lights flashed across the command ship's bridge as a new alert sounded, one they hadn't heard in any of their simulations. "Commander," Tom's voice was tight with worry. "The antimatter containment system on Ship 3 is showing microscopic cracks. The safety protocols are shutting it down automatically." Kate's mind raced through their options. Without Ship 3, their carefully planned formation would be broken. The entire mission could fail. "How long until complete containment failure?" she asked. "At current deterioration rate, 4 hours. Our backup containment system can't be activated because of the gravitational interference." A message flashed in from the alien news ships. "Surely now the humans will retreat. Even they must see this is hopeless." Kate looked at the main screen. The anomaly was still there, still threatening billions of lives. But now they faced a choice: withdraw to safety or continue with increased risk. "Tom," she said quietly, "give me options. And don't tell me what other species would do. Tell me what humans can do." Tom worked his console frantically. We could modify the remaining ship's antimatter burst patterns, compensate for the missing ship." But he hesitated. "But what?" "But we have to remove some safety limiters, operate beyond tested parameters. Everything we've practiced, everything we've simulated, we'd be going against our own protocols." The bridge fell silent. This was the moment of truth. The cowardly humans had reached a point where their beloved safety measures were becoming a hindrance. Kate opened a channel to all ships. "This is Commander Barnes. You all know the situation. Ship 3 needs to withdraw. We can continue the mission, but it means taking risks we haven't simulated. I won't order this. It has to be your choice." The responses came back instantly, each crew volunteering to continue. They had come too far to back down now. "Very well," Kate said. "Begin emergency modification sequence. Tom, work with all ships to recalibrate their burst patterns. Everyone else, double-check every system. I want to know the instant anything looks wrong." As Ship 3 carefully withdrew to a safe distance, the remaining 4 vessels began their dangerous modifications. Warning messages flashed on every screen as they disabled safety limiters that had been standard on human ships for decades. An alien message came through. "We are confused. You humans are willing to take risks now, after all your talk of safety." Kate responded, her voice firm. "There's a difference between taking unnecessary risks and taking calculated ones. We're not guessing. We're not hoping. We're making informed decisions based on data and experience." She turned to Tom. "Status: modifications complete. New burst pattern calculated. But Commander," he looked up, his face serious, "we have no simulation data for this configuration. We're operating completely blind." Kate nodded. "No, not blind. We have our training. We have our experience. And most importantly, we have our judgment. Sometimes being careful means knowing exactly when to take risks." She opened a channel to all ships. "This is Commander Barnes. I know we're operating outside our comfort zone. I know this goes against much of our training. But remember, our protocols aren't just about avoiding danger. They're about understanding it. And right now, we understand exactly what we're doing and why." The remaining 4 ships moved into their new formation. Warning indicators still flashed, systems still operated beyond their tested limits, but each crew member knew their role perfectly. "Begin modified burst sequence," Kate ordered. "Show the galaxy that human courage isn't about ignoring danger. It's about facing it with understanding." As the ships fired their enhanced antimatter bursts, the watching alien vessels fell silent. They were witnessing something unprecedented. Humans breaking their own rules, but doing it with the same methodical precision they applied to following them. The cowards were about to prove that true bravery comes in many forms. The modified antimatter bursts from the 4 remaining ships lit up space like artificial stars. Without their usual safety limiters, the vessels pushed their systems to levels that would have horrified their designers. But they weren't operating blindly. Every move was still calculated, every risk carefully measured. Energy levels at 130% of maximum rated capacity, Tom reported, his fingers dancing across multiple screens. Hull stress increasing but still within calculated tolerances. Commander Barnes watched as their enhanced energy pulses struck the anomaly. The massive gravitational distortion writhed like a wounded beast, its dark mass contracting and expanding erratically. "Status update on the threatened systems," she asked. First system showing 60% reduction in gravitational distortion. Second system at 45% reduction. The others are beginning to stabilize. Messages poured in from the watching alien vessels. Many had expected the humans to fail when forced to abandon their safety protocols. Instead, they were witnessing something extraordinary. Humans taking risks, but doing it with the same methodical precision they applied to everything else. "Commander," Tom's voice cut through the chatter. "The anomaly, it's changing. The core is beginning to collapse." Kate leaned forward in her chair. This was the moment their modified calculations had predicted, their one chance to end this threat once and for all. "All ships, execute final protocol beta," she ordered. "Maximum power to forward systems. Prepare for synchronized burst on my mark." The 4 human vessels moved into their final attack position. Their hulls groaned under the strain. Warning lights flashed on every deck, but still they pressed forward. This wasn't recklessness. This was the culmination of every calculation, every simulation, every bit of careful planning that had brought them here. "Energy levels at maximum sustainable output," Tom announced. "We can't hold this for long." Kate opened a channel to all ships. "Remember your training. Remember why we take precautions. Not because we're afraid to act, but because we respect the dangers we face. Now, let's finish this. Mark." 4 simultaneous antimatter bursts, precisely targeted and perfectly synchronized, struck the anomaly's weakened core. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like a soap bubble popping in slow motion, the massive gravitational distortion began to collapse in on itself. "Energy readings dropping," Tom shouted. "The anomaly is consuming itself." The alien news ships broadcasted everything. Across the galaxy, billions watched as the humans, the species so often mocked for their caution, achieved what the warrior races had deemed impossible. All threatened systems reporting normal gravitational readings, Tom said, his voice filled with disbelief. "Commander, we did it. The anomaly is gone." A cheer went up from every human ship. They had pushed their vessels beyond their limits, operated without their usual safety margins, but they had done it without sacrificing their fundamental principles. Every risk had been calculated, every move planned. The first message came from the council leader themselves. "Humanity has achieved what we thought impossible. But more than that, you have taught us something valuable about the nature of courage." Kate smiled as she opened a channel to reply. "We didn't succeed because we abandoned caution. We succeeded because we understood when and how to take necessary risks. That's what human courage has always been about." As the 4 ships began power-down procedures, carefully, methodically, despite their exhaustion, the watching alien vessels moved closer, their crews requesting permission to observe the human shutdown protocols. The very safety measures they had once mocked were now objects of intense interest. The cowards had transformed into teachers, not by changing who they were, but by showing the galaxy that their way, careful, methodical, respectful of danger, was its own kind of strength. And as news of their success spread across the stars, the word human began to mean something new in the galactic vocabulary. It no longer meant coward. It meant those who are brave enough to be careful. 1 week after the destruction of the gravitational anomaly, the Galactic Council chamber looked very different. The human section, once relegated to the edges, had been moved closer to the center. Ambassador Reed stood at the main podium, facing an audience that no longer whispered or laughed when he spoke. "The success of our mission," Reed began, wasn't just about saving lives, though that alone would have been enough. It was about demonstrating a fundamental truth, that caution and courage are not opposites. They are partners. Commander Barnes and her crew sat in a place of honor, their simple gray uniforms standing out among the elaborate robes of the alien representatives. The scaled representative who had once mocked humanity now sat quietly, listening. For too long, Reed continued, the galaxy has seen safety protocols as signs of weakness, backup systems as admission of failure, planning as proof of fear. He paused, looking around the chamber. But ask yourselves, what is more courageous, to charge blindly into danger, or to face it with full understanding of its threats? The council leader rose, their crystalline form catching the light. Humanity has proven itself beyond any doubt. But more than that, you have shown us a new way of thinking. Already, 17 species have requested access to human safety protocols and training methods. Tom Miller, sitting beside Commander Barnes, couldn't help but smile. The same alien races that had laughed at human cowardice were now eager to learn their ways. We offer more than just protocols, Reed responded. We offer a philosophy. One that says true courage isn't about ignoring danger, it's about respecting it, understanding it, preparing for it. The chamber's main screen displayed images from their mission, the careful preparation, the methodical approach, the calculated risks when needed. Even the moment when Ship 3 had to withdraw was shown not as a failure, but as wisdom. Moving forward, the council leader announced, humanity will head a new division of the Galactic Council, the Department of Strategic Safety and Emergency Response. Your methods will become the standard for all high-risk operations in Council space. Commander Barnes stood then, walking to join Reed at the podium. The chamber fell silent, eager to hear from the one who had led the successful mission. We accept this honor, she said simply. But understand, we won't change our ways. We won't rush. We won't skip safety checks. We won't ignore protocols just because someone thinks they take too long. The scaled representative, surprisingly, was the first to applaud. We would not want you to change, they said. We have seen the wisdom of the human way. As the ceremony concluded, Reed and Barnes walked together through the council halls. Alien representatives bowed respectfully as they passed, not with fear or mere politeness, but with genuine respect. Did you ever think, Barnes asked quietly, that our greatest contribution to the galaxy would be teaching them to be careful? Reed smiled. It's funny. They called us cowards because we planned for failure. Now they understand that planning for failure is what enables the greatest successes. In the days that followed, the story spread across the galaxy. The humans who had been mocked as cowards had saved billions of lives precisely because of their cautious nature. Their methodical approach, once dismissed as weakness, was now recognized as advanced thinking. The word human took on new meaning in the galactic lexicon. It came to mean someone who approached danger with respect, rather than bravado. Someone who understood that true courage wore many faces, including the face of careful preparation. And in the end, that was humanity's greatest victory. Not just saving lives, but changing minds. Teaching the galaxy that sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is take the time to be careful. Because courage isn't about fearlessness. It's about facing your fears with wisdom, preparation, and understanding. That was the human way.